Welcome to a winter solstice and Yule greetings from the podcast Sigdriffa. Yule celebration starts in December 21st. It starts with the winter solstice, 1659 Swedish time. It's when the axis of the earth is the furthest away from the sun, and it makes it the darkest and longest night of the year. Solstice is derived from Latin, and sol, or sol, means of course the sun, and sistere means to stand still. The mythology tells us that the wheel of the year stands still for 3 days, same degree, 3 days in a row, before it takes another turn of the wheel, another year. The symbol for the wheel of the year is the sun cross. It's a circle with a cross in it, where the 4 precise turning points of the time and the seasons of the year are represented. At the very top we have December 21st, winter solstice, and then spring equinox at March 20th, and then at the bottom summer solstice at June 21st, and then we have the fall equinox at September 22nd. At winter solstice, the time of Höder, the blind god, the dark god, is over, and the time of Balder begins. The light is coming back to us, and this is what we celebrate. And then it switches again at the midsummer solstice, June 21st. Balder is known to be a sun god from Bronze Age. He is called the Shining One, the Lord, den lysande, eller Herren. Balder is the male aspect of the sun, and is the most beautiful and brightest god. He was the most loved god of all the gods of all these years. But he was killed. He was killed by his brother Höder. It was Loki that tricked Höder to take an arrow that Loki had prepared from the mistletoe. And he said, "Aim on Balder." And Höder was blind, so he couldn't really see. And nobody in Asgard thought that Balder ever could be hurt or be killed. So it was kind of like a game. When Balder died, all was so sad, devastating. Frigg was crying, the mother of Balder, and she asked, "Is there anyone that will go and to Hel and get Balder back again?" Odin and Hermod said that they would go to Hel and ask the goddess to bring Balder back again. Odin is called the Hel-blinder, and Hermod, we know he was the brother of Balder. So they went, riding on Sleipnir, to the gate of Hel, where they met the goddess Hel. They could see Balder sitting there in the most honorable seat they asked the goddess Hel, "Would you let Balder come back with us?" And she said, "No, it's impossible." "Well, there is one condition. All things, dead and alive, must weep for Balder for this to be possible." Odin and Hermod brought this back to us, the Assyrians, and they all wept, except for a giantess that said, "No, why should I weep? It has nothing to do with me." So Balder could not come back. It showed itself that it was Loki in disguise, the trickster, the universal god Loki. So Balder, he remained in the underworld, not to emerge until after Ragnarök, when the earth ascends again from the sea with green and ready to harvest fields. Most European countries celebrate with the mistletoe. You kiss under the mistletoe, or you bring it in at Yule time. Now we understand where that custom come from. It was Loki that made an arrow that killed Balder. He had to be killed. This is how it works. Half of the year is the time of Balder, and half of the year is the time of Höder. It's the seasons, and it's supposed to be that way. Jultomten, or Julefather, he brings us gifts at Juletime. Jultomten is Odin. He's the Julefather. Even his name is Julir. He's got many other names, but his name is also Julir. And Julir comes from the word Jul. And Jul means wheel. The turning of the wheel. This is what the season is all about. It's the turning of the wheel. A new year is starting, a new season is starting. We decorate the Yule tree, julgranen. It symbolizes the evergreen world tree Yggdrasil, and we decorate it with sacrificial gifts, either hanging in the tree or underneath the tree. We create magic in our dwellings. All our 5 senses are involved. We scent the Yule tree, the ham, the porridge. We open the presents. The Yule goat is right by the tree. The horn is raised. We drink Yule beer, snaps, mum, and mead. And we toast for honor and peace, and for good annual growth during the coming of the year of the wheel. Ofta la göra, äring och arvegods tillhör odalbonden. Ofta la göra i vår sinnade juletid. It means honor and peace. It's so funny because the Abrahamic religion have spoken about our Yule tree and about us, the heathens. It says in Jeremiah 10:2, "Learn not the way of the heathen. Don't be dismayed and at the signs of heaven as the heathen is. For the customs of those people are in vain. For they go out and cut a tree in the forest, and they work with their hands as a workman and with an axe, and They deck it with silver and gold and fasten it with nails and hammers, and it cannot move. It stands upright like a palm tree, and the tree can't speak, and it has to be carried because it cannot walk. But don't be afraid of them. They cannot do any evil, neither can they do any good. This is spoken about our Yule tree and our traditions in Jeremiah 10:2. Well, it's pretty much the way we do it, actually. Many people go out in the woods and cut their own tree. There are great events in the heavenlies at this time. And the Father of the sky is called Mundilfari. It means the one moving according to particular times. He's the father of Sol or Sunna and Mani, the moon. And the mythology tells us that the goddess Sol, her disk is driven by her chariots and a horse during the day, and then descending in the west, where she's put on a ship on the ocean until the dawn again, and then again put on the chariot driven by the divine horse. The sun chariot, Solvagnen, is called Alfredrull, which means she lights up the world. She's considered to be an elf beam, a human-like supernatural being that shines with magical powers. And the word elf is found throughout the Germanic languages and have originally meant white being. The goddess Sol is married to Glen, which means the opening in the clouds, and they have a daughter that will survive Ragnarök, but Sol and Mani are devoured by wolves, and the sun will be blackened and cast from the sky to the earth, lowered in the sea. It's gudarnas skymning, the twilight of the gods, Ragnarök. The great cycle is over, but it starts all over again, with the earth ascending with ready-to-harvest fields. It's all about cycles. It's all about different wheels that are turning all the time. The year of the wheel is turning, and greater wheels are turning. We're turning away from Kali Yuga. It's a dark time. We're going towards the light again. The runes will help us to overcome this involution that we are in right now. And we'll recognize at Yule time, Yara number 11, the fertility rune that stands for annual growth of the year cycle. Ärings- och fruktbarhetsrunan. It's the balance between polarities, light and darkness, night and day, Balder and Höder. We acknowledge Algis, number 14, the elk rune, also called the life rune. It stands for an Old Norse constellation of Karlavagnen, which is placed in the way of the sun's rising, where the elk and the deer symbolize Balder and Höder and show us the perfect polarity between light and darkness. When we are in balance, we are protected. Dagas is the rune that brings us the daylight, the day. It tells us that Balder is risen, looks, shines and transforms us. the Aryan people are called the walkers of the dawn, the people of the dawn. The rune Dagas is number 23, and it brings us new hope. The runes are divine. They were lost in the catastrophe of our homeland, Hyperborea, but discovered by Odin upon the work tree Yggdrasil for 9 nights and 9 days. Runa in Old Norse means mumbling secrets and mysteries. They show us the underlying synchronization. The runes were the first language from ancient Hyperboreans, and the Phoenicians were inspired by the runes when they created their alphabet. The runes possess, like I said before, magical powers, and as I said before, allows us to overcome this involution in this time of Kali Yuga. So the year of the wheel turn, and the last rune in the rune row is 24, Fe. It completes the year cycle and represents livestock, wealth, and heritage. So what do we do December 21st at winter solstice when we enter into the Yule season? It's the longest and darkest night of the year, den långa mörka natten. And Norse mythology tells us we're supposed to go down into the underworld for 3 days. There we meet the Lady of the Mead, and we drink the mead of wisdom. The Valkyries shall serve us with the elixir of life, also called the mead of immortality. It's a metaphor of meeting ourselves, really, taking the time to go into the dark corners of our being and find valuable wisdom and understanding, both about ourselves personally and also collectively, and about our forefathers, our gods, and so on. The great psychologist Carl Gustav Jung, he talks about this and calls it the individuation process. We need to take a look at the shadow self and stop projecting that dark shadow on to others. It means we become a whole individual as we do this work. It's sort of like a mythical death, and it comes from ancient mysteries. It's an initiation rite, really, where the Aryan noble becomes born again, twice born Aryan. A new person, a new year, a new chance, a new dawn. The wheel of the year is turning, the old is gone and the new is coming. The dark is behind us and the light is coming towards us. I want to wish you all a glorious midwinter solstice, midvinter solstånd 2020, and a good, warm, heartful Yule. Think about that wheel. Be aware of that time when the axle of the earth rotates back again towards the light. Thank you for listening to the podcast Sigdrifa.